Welcome to Dad Mode, God, Grit, and Goals. I'm excited to talk to you today about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm just calling it Curating Curiosity. Choose your news. And it's really about the power of positive curiosity and the importance of surrounding ourselves with uplifting influences. I know you may know that, but maybe you haven't thought of it in this way. As fathers, we've got an opportunity to lead by example, choosing to make the news in a way that reflects our values and our faith. So I want to share a story. I'm going to go back, way back. I was just out of college. I had just gotten a job. I'd been working as an engineer, and I had this opportunity to go with the vice president of sales to go pitch this big deal that he was working on, and I was the technical support in this endeavor. What he didn't know is that I had just been to a seminar, a business seminar, and in that seminar, someone from the stage said, you can either watch the news or you can make the news. And that really struck me. It was like, it's like you either watch what's happening or you make things happen. And that really struck me. And from that, I began to pursue this process of self-development. I ended up buying a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. And that thing really changed my life. And one quick story, I was on a plane. I was with our vice president of sales. And he's a great guy, and we had become friends, and I really looked up to him. And as I was reading, I pulled out this book, and he just started ribbing me about it. And it kind of moved beyond funny, and it was just like irksome. And I realized, like, he's actually really making fun of me. And it was because, I'm introverted, he's extrovert. He was everything I'm not, but I was technical. So he needed me, but I couldn't be him. And I think in a way it was bothering me because when I was at that seminar, I was like, what do I want to do? Well, I love being a computer programmer. I loved all that stuff, but really what struck me is like, I want to be on stage. Like, I want to be talking in front of all kinds of people. Like, that would be so cool. But I had no skills and ability to do that. And not to mention that when I had the opportunity to get up in front of a group of people when I was in college, I literally blacked out. So I was like, that's just not me. I can't do those things. And what happened was, as I opened the book, I was a few chapters in, and it talked about there are people in your life that are either going to lift you up, and there are people in your life that are going to tear you down. And it just struck me as I was sitting there on the plane next to our vice president of sales, and I really had to block out what he said to me. And then I read this, and I'm like, here's a guy I was looking up to who I thought I could learn from, and I was, but who I also thought was an encourager in my life. And I realized he was not. He knew that his skill set was communications, relationship building, all the things that I couldn't do. And here were the things that I needed to work on and struggled with. And so this whole idea that you've got to be really careful about those influences that you allow in your life and those people that you allow in your life. And like, no one else is going to do that for you. So what I've come to realize, and in that process, I literally stopped watching the news because I was like, if I'm going to make the news, you can watch the news or you can make the news, but you can't do both. And if you're the kind of person that's just scrolling endlessly through social media, you're just watching the news. Or if you're caught up in the politics, or you're caught up in to what's going on in the world, and everything seems out of control. Well, how is that helping you? I used to laugh because people say, so you don't watch the news. I'm like, no. If it gets bad enough, the people around me will tell me. And so fast forward it was 2 years later, I became the president of that organization, and that guy worked for me. And so it's just the power of this. And ironically, we ended up in the news 2 years after that. So 4 years later, I was in the news. And for a good thing. So it's so important what it is that you're surrounding yourself, what it is that you're listening to, what sort of negativity are you allowing in your life. And I want to put this in a different light, because now I am creating content, right? And as such, I get feedback. Some of the feedback is very encouraging. Some of it is not so encouraging. And so I have to decide, what is it that I'm choosing to focus on? And I heard from another content creator, and it was so good, because somebody asked him, how do you deal with negative comments? And his response was, well, I think most people say it doesn't bother me. Like, I just don't let it bother me. I don't pay any attention to it. And I think deep down inside, this stuff does bother me. It does hurt. If anyone says something bad about you, it's like, ugh, you want to defend yourself. But especially in this online world, where you don't even know who these people are, they don't know who you are. The idea that I'm just not curious about the negativity. So I'm not curious about negative news. I'm not curious about negative comments. So in reading through them, I like the positive things, so I'll lean into that. But when a negative comment comes, you can tell when it starts off and it says, I think you're full of whatever, ... It's like, well, move on to the next one. Now, there's a difference between, I believe you can learn from good feedback, right? I accept feedback all the time, but there are only certain people in my life that I allow to give me that feedback. And I will accept it, and I will make the changes. My wife is certainly one of those. My kids are some of those. My boss, my coworkers, people I know, my mentors, those people that I care about. But random people on the outside, it's like, I ain't got time for that. And so I think this idea that you have the ability to filter those things. And so there's a saying, which is, curiosity killed the cat, right? It's like, so be careful what you're curious about. Be careful about what you're intentionally thinking about, especially as we create environments for your family. As a father, you're responsible for guiding and shaping the curiosity of your kids towards constructive and positive ends, right? So I want to talk to you about a couple of things here. So number one is cultivating a positive environment. It's really important that in your home you're creating an atmosphere that encourages positive curiosity. focusing on faith and hope and love. And this can manifest itself in a variety of ways. What kind of movies are you watching with your kids? What kind of movies are you watching yourself that maybe they're in the other room, but they can overhear? What sort of books are you reading? What sort of music are you listening to? We think these things don't matter, but they do. And so you just want to make sure that these are in alignment with your Christian values, that they're appropriate for your kids. Look, I like certain movies. I love action thrillers. I like all kinds of movies. I like the show House. I like a lot of different stuff. But when my kids were young, I didn't watch any of that. We didn't watch PG-13 movies when our kids were under 13 because there's no reason to do that. And some may say, well, that's just not realistic. Well, you set the environment. Why would you want to expose them to that? Well, they're going to be exposed to it in school. Well, they should see that as abnormal, not normal, because we're not raising our children to the world's standard. You're raising children to God's standard, and they are not the same. And so the things that are going on and the things that they say that they see as different than the way it is in the house, you want them to see it as different than it is in our house, because that's how they know it's not normal. And then you can talk about it. And you can do it in an appropriate way. So you're responsible as the dad. You are the spiritual leader. And I shared this the other day, that you're the spiritual leader regardless of how you're leading. So just because you are the spiritual leader, it's like not a mantle you can say, well, I don't accept that. No, you are. That's just the way God created the family. As the man, you set the tone. You might say, well, my wife does or my kids do. And it's like, no, that is your role. Just a quick statistic. If the dad decides to go to church, the whole family goes to church. If the mom decides to go to church, the whole family does not decide to go to church. She might take the kids, but the dad doesn't go. Or she may go by herself. Or dad goes begrudgingly. So you're setting the tone. You take the lead. And so the question is, as the spiritual leader, what spirit are you bringing into the family? So you've got to work on cultivating that positive environment. And if you've had a lousy day, I get it, had plenty of those, you have got to have that buffer between getting home, leaving the office and getting home, and shutting off work mode so that you can be in dad mode. Because dad mode is the most important that you can do, because you are literally raising up the next generation. Second thing is you want to surround yourself with uplifting company. And it's so important and so significant, the company that you keep and how it influences your own outlook and your own actions. You've got to have a community of like-minded people. And so where are you going to find those? Well, if you're not engaged in your church, if you're, it's just me and God, well, you better be hanging out with other guys that is also me and God, so it can be we and God, right? Long ago, there's a saying, you've heard it, it takes a village to raise a child. You need your village, and you want them to be like-minded. And like-minded isn't your sports buddies, because not all your sports buddies are like-minded in the way that you want them to be or the way that they need to be. We need to have shared values. We need to find out that these things are the most important things. Who are the people that if you've got a real problem, you can call in the middle of the night and they're gonna come over, right? Those are the people that are uplifting. Who are the men in your men's group? I'm not in a men's group. Well, maybe you should seek that out. Because those relationships that and you say, well, I don't need one. Well, you might not need one now, but when you need one, you won't have it. And so you got to realize, and I'm talking to myself on this as well, but it's like, if you don't have those male relationships in your life that are the people that are praying for you, that are the people that know your weaknesses, those that can call you to the table, those that you give the right to speak life into you, those that are going to be uplifting, but those are also going to call you to the mat and say, I'm not buying it, right? Those are the people that we need in our lives, who share the same belief and view of God, that they are not God, that there is a higher power. So you want to surround yourself with those uplifting folks. And then my third point is you want to be proactive in your curiosity. So I want to encourage you to take an active role in seeking out positive knowledge and positive experiences that align with your goals and your Christian values. So when you set a positive faith-aligned goals, they're going to guide your curiosity and your actions. If you know way more about sports or your sport or some particular sports hero's statistics than you know about God and his word, then you might not be curious about the right thing. If you're more curious about the news and what's going on in some third world country than you are what's going on in your own home, you might have a problem with your curiosity focus. What are the things that are grabbing your attention? If you're more curious about what's happening in that feed than what's happening in your kitchen table or your dinner table, you might have a problem. So be really proactive in analyzing what is it that I'm actually curious about. Because curiosity killed the cat, right? So you've got to be careful of what you're spending your time and attention on. So Proverbs 13:20 says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So this verse is from the book of Proverbs, which is packed with wisdom and practical advice for living a righteous life. And it offers a powerful insight into the importance of the company that we keep. So the idea of walking with the wise is about more than just a physical proximity. It's about intentionally surrounding ourselves with people who embody the wisdom and character that we aspire to. So these are your friends, your mentors, family members, leaders in the community who live out their faith and values in a way that inspire you, that uplift you and those around them. When you walk with the wise, you're exposed to the perspectives, their decision-making processes, and their ways of handling life's challenges. That's going to have a profound impact on your own choices and actions. You know the saying, iron sharpens iron. So you want to collect these friends, like intentionally. And then you need to be deliberate about meeting with them. I've got a few of these in my life, and these relationships are over 15 years old now. For fathers and role models, this proverb underscores the importance of being mindful about who we and our children spend time with. It's about fostering relationships that build us up and challenge us to grow in wisdom and encourage us to live out our faith more fully. It also serves as a reminder that we have the responsibility to be the wise companion for others. So that's a good verse. The other one I jotted down was Philippians 4:8. And that's a really powerful verse. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if any is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. So this was written by the Apostle Paul and serves as a guide for us on how to orient our minds and our hearts. So true, noble, speaks to what's dignified and honorable, urging us to elevate our thoughts above the pettiness, to consider what is truly worthy of respect. That's what being noble is. Whatever is right, that's just what's righteous according to God's standards, not just what's legal or accepted by society. It's a call to align our thoughts and action with God's righteousness. Whatever's lovely, appreciate the beauty in the world, not just aesthetic sense, but also in actions and attitudes that reflect God's love. Whatever's admirable. This encourages me to think about things that deserve approval and commendation, the things that uplift and inspire us towards the good. And of course, excellent or praiseworthy. These just sum up all the other qualities together, urging us to focus our minds on the higher ideals. So, sharing all that with you today, I just want you to realize that you can shed the negativity. You don't need to be bringing that home if it's coming from work. Listen to uplifting music. Whatever you need to do to go from work mode to dad mode, that's on you. That's what you've got to do. And you're going to have some emotional intelligence about this stuff, because there is a story that you are telling yourself, and you are a character in that story. And so that story that you are telling yourself and the character that you're playing, you are either the victor or you're the victim. And things are either happening to you or you are making them happen. And so that's why I say you are either watching the news or you're making the news. You get to make your own news. And it is all yours as spiritual leader. What spirit is showing up when I show up? Are the kids and my wife wondering who's coming home today? I sure hope he had a good day. I sure hope he didn't have a bad day, because when dad has a bad day, there's hell to pay. Are you hiding out in your room? Are you hiding out on your phone? Or are you present? These are the important things. You are responsible for the news feed that goes to yourself. You are responsible for the self-talk and how you're talking to yourself. These are the things that you need to grab hold of. These are the things that you need to adjust where they need adjusting. You need to take, I say you need to, it's helpful when you take an audit. What do I really want? And what is it that's preventing me from achieving that? What emotions are coming to play? And in those emotions, what story am I telling myself? These are going to be super important things. So as fathers, you're going to lead by example. You've got to curate a positive, Christ-centered environment for your family. And I just want to tell you, you can do it. As I read through that book, the magic of thinking big, everything in my life began to change. There's no telling one small, simple idea or meeting one person or reading about one person who came from a place worse than you, who ended up in a place far better than you. And you begin to go, there's no difference between them and me. Like the only difference between them and me is I haven't believed that was possible for myself. Because if you don't believe it's possible, then why in the world would you have any other thoughts saying that it's possible? And if you didn't believe it's possible and you're not having any thoughts about it, then you're never going to take any action. So beliefs, thoughts, and actions all come from the same place. So I've got to believe that I could be a great dad. I got to believe that I can be a great husband. I've got to believe that I can be a great leader at my office. And then all of the excuses are going to come flooding in. They're all going to come in at you and they're going to go, you're not a good dad. You're not a great leader. You're not a good husband. It's like, I got to shake that off. Because that's not how God sees you. God sees you as all of those things, but you have not yet manifest all of those things. And so to manifest those things, you have to align your beliefs. You must first believe. This is why God's word says you have to believe. And my favorite scripture, I believe, Lord, but help me with my unbelief. You're going to need help with your unbelief. This is why you get into a men's group. This is why you surround yourself with different people than you have been, that you need encouragers and challengers. This is why you get into God's word. This is why you listen to uplifting music. You are responsible for you. And when the best you shows up, then you begin to realize, the best version of me is a better husband. The best version of me is a better dad. The best version of me is a better leader. The best version of me is yet to come because I'm continually getting better. Do I screw up? Yes. Do I fall down? Yes. Will I get back up? Well, that's certainly what you want to teach your kids, right? And so if you're new at this, you've got to give yourself grace. You've got to give yourself opportunity to get better. But it starts with believing that you were created in God's image to be a child of God, a great husband, a great father, a great friend, and a great leader. And that wisdom comes from above. And that you know when you are pursuing and you are curious about the good things versus pursuing and being curious about the negative things. So hopefully this has been encouraging today. Do a little self-assessment, and then you've got to ask yourself, what am I willing to do in order to become? Because you already are, according to God's word. You are made in his image, and you are either creating heaven on earth or you are living in hell. And if you're living in hell right now, I'm sorry about that. And I am here to grab your hand with one hand on you and one hand on God. And I'm saying, let me help you up because you've got this. Thanks for listening in. Dad Mode. God, grit, goals. You've got this.